New to yield farming, confused about APYs, liquidity pools, or where to start? Let's go over the most common beginner questions on how you get started in the whole crypto yield farming space. First question first, I suppose, is the main one, and it's what exactly is yield farming and how does it differ from simple staking token? So the best way, I suppose, to explain this is to jump into two different protocols and platforms to explain it. So we're going to, as always, using SwapX, who officially sponsor this entire series, which again, big shout out to them, and make sure you check them out. So we're going to be looking at SwapX here, and obviously we're looking at PancakeSwap. Now, both are similar in terms of obviously what they provide and service they offer. However, the big difference here is how you go from single staking tokens to yield farm. So in this scenario here, we can yield farm away on different positions. So like if we take a random position here, we have USDC SwapX, you're getting your APY or your APR, and with that what happens is you're getting rewarded a token. So we're getting rewards here is paid out in the SwapX token. You can see here the SwapX token at the moment is roughly nearly 6 cents. So this is where we're incentivized here to provide our liquidity, earn our tokens like this. Now where single staking comes into it is if we jump over here to PancakeSwap, you can see here on PancakeSwap you can deploy your cake tokens into these pools. Now the pools are not offering a massive amount of rewards here, but still the APRs are not too bad. So what you can do here is you can stake your cake, for example in this scenario here, and when you stake your cake you're going to be earning roughly 14% on it, and it shows you roughly when it ends. The key thing here about this is you're not exposing yourself to price fluctuations. All you have is you're holding your cake token, you're earning an APR on it, and it's simple as that. Whereas if we provide liquidity and yield farm, you're getting higher APRs. However, you are introducing more risk to end up heavier in one token or another token or impermanent loss, which I'll explain a bit more. But again, just gives you a clear idea, I suppose, of how it's done. So on to question 2 is the most common one, is where do returns in yield farming actually come from, and are they sustainable? Now this is an excellent question and a great way to kind of understand how protocols and operate. So again, we're going to go through 3 different protocols here and show you, like I mentioned in question 1, for example, with SwapX, the way it's done is you rewarded your SwapX token. Obviously, at this moment in time, it is going to be inflationary token. So the more farming and things like that, the more tokens come out. They obviously have use cases built into the back end of that, which I'm not going to dive into now. But as I said, you will need to understand these areas when you're definitely looking for positions to yield farm. So SwapX are incentivized people, and the APRs are pushed up, obviously because they have their own token. And again, that's what obviously helps push up APRs. So the next option, as you look at it, obviously, like I mentioned over here on PancakeSwap, and again, they have a similar model in place as well, where you provide liquidity. So if we come over here to the farm liquidity, you provide your liquidity into these, and you're going to be rewarded the cake token. Again, similar to what SwapX is, and pretty much you're going to just earn a little bit as well from that. And as platforms and everything progress, what eventually happens is the token supply and token emissions become less and less, and hopefully at some stage, I think PancakeSwap at the moment is deflationary, so that is obviously a good side of things there for definite deflationary token. Whereas SwapX are not deflationary at the moment. However, the key thing with SwapX is the implemented V tokens, which allow you to lock up your SwapX again, which kind of helps the overall circulation of the tokens. Definitely something you need to be aware of. And finally, if you look over here onto platforms like VFAT, so again, in these positions, you're given tokens from the actual platform. So over here, it's an aerodrome. You're provided the aero token. However, there is positions, obviously, say for example, this one, Uniswap, and the rewards are basically come from trading fees. So every time someone buys and sells a token, you get some of the trading fees. And the same is true from other platforms like Wrapped ETH USDC. The thing is about it, what tends to happen with a lot of these is the trading fees get converted to native token, which in turn is given to you. So there is a bit of buy pressure there for definite. Number 3 is what are impermanent losses, and why should every new yield farmer understand them before committing funds? Now, this is something that you really need to dive deep into to understand it a lot more in detail and understand the impact of it. So what I've done here is I've kind of just obviously questioned it here, so I'm going to explain it, but it said definitely try and do it yourself as well. So if we look at any position here, and obviously SwapX, we have the benefit here of any of these positions we can get into, we're not getting into a concentrated liquidity position where impermanent loss, it still happens, but it's less of an impact on your overall bag. However, if we get into a position over here, for example, wrapped ETH USDC, we obviously set ourselves our own range wherever we want to be at. But if we deposit, let's say $1,000 in here at this current price of 3,500 for, I think, wrapped ETH, this means when the price is increasing, it's selling our wrapped ETH for USDC. And when we go out with this range at the top, we end up with entirely USDC. The same is true as happening when we go to the bottom. So again, when we drop down to the bottom, it's what it's doing. It's using our USDC to buy more ETH, more ETH, and more ETH. And what happens at the end, we go out of range here, we end up with more Ethereum. Now, the problem here can happen is sometimes the risk to reward. So you could end up going out of position. And if you go out of a position and decide you want to create your position again, you lock in your impermanent loss. So question number 4 is how do I evaluate the safety of a yield farming platform or smart contract? So for me, I have a number of different processes I go through. Obviously, I try to tend to focus on platforms that are a bit more, have a bit of history behind them. Reluctant to put large amounts of funds into new protocols I've just launched because of the simple reason you don't know enough about them. So always, testing them out and making sure audits are done is definitely a big thing. Now, obviously, audits are not the key to it all, but as I said, audits will massively help you understand the risks and things like that. And, again, it's just, you have to do your own bit of research here. Now, if I was getting into positions, into farms and stuff like that, I've made this kind of document here. Hopefully you can see it. And this document pretty much allows me to kind of validate a pool and see how good, how bad it is. So I have a number of different things, and this is more important for your building blocks of your yield farming positions and pools. There's certain things I look for to pay attention to, and obviously based on their grade here. So all I do is tick each box, and if we have a certain number of boxes ticked, it gives me a general range. And the idea here is just to give me a mental note of where the money is going, the risk, the reward, and pretty much have I got some sort of plan in place, not just throwing money hopefully to get there. Now this it'll be free to download if anyone's interested in it, and that is one of the key ways to kind of get and evaluate the safety of a position, I suppose, is key. And I've fallen into that hole too many times, getting into positions and risking it, and then what ends up happening is you get absolutely burnt. So like, you will have positions like this wrapped ETH Hyper offering 3,000%. These are ones that could completely destroy your overall balance. Again, we have another one. I don't know anything about these projects or stuff like that, but you can see here, like, we're in the 34% range and we're 3,000%. So this may not fit into any of my actual recommendations here in terms of what I want. So I think one of them is the TVL is only $2,000. So again, the TVL is not over the 25 million. So again, I wouldn't be looking into this for one of my first stages of building blocks in yield farming. And the final step is final question, I suppose, what practical steps should a newcomer take starting with a small budget and pretty much to get hands-on with yield farming experience? Now, obviously, pay attention to all the previous questions that I went over. They're massive things to understand. Again, it leads on to this, what we just said. I wouldn't necessarily jump into these positions, high APRs and low TVLs. Don't chase APRs. APRs will absolutely wreck you. So what I would advise is looking for positions that have decent APRs, decent TVLs, and opportunities to grow your portfolio. I think that is one of the key things here. So here's an example. It's 25 or 251%, and it's 1.5 million position. Again, as I said, it doesn't fit the category here, but for me personally, this is what I look at because I'm probably in a different stage than what you are. But if you're looking to be a bit more get a bit more idea and just get your feet wet and get it in your feet under the table, I suppose, these are some examples. So you could get into wrapped ETH USDC, 262%. Again, you could set yourself a really wide range if you're a bit more comfortable in doing it. And, you're getting a less percentage, but like 22% change, 127% APR. It is definitely an option there to yield farm and kind of keep yourself a bit secure. Now, whereas SwapX, obviously, you could get into this position here And as I said, you don't necessarily have to put in your concentrate liquidity. You're just going into an automated position, which overall is going to help you kind of learn the ropes a bit more. So they are the most common questions. I hope you found them helpful. As I said, this image here, hopefully I will have it in a link in the description below it. If not, it'll definitely be in my next video, so I'm not 100% sure whether I'll get it out at the same time. If you're still questions about learning about crypto yield farming and stuff like that, check out my website over here. I have a lot of articles of different videos I posted, goes over a lot about yield farming and a whole lot. And again, I have a group. If you're interested in joining, you just click the link here and an email will be sent to you, I think, with the Discord link on it. If you have problems with the Discord, let me know in the comments of the video, or reach out to me through X or through Telegram or something like that. So yeah, look, we're going to leave it there. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope everyone has a great time.